Well, thank you. Yeah, thanks, Paul. Thanks, Blue Oak, for having me. Really excited to be here on this sort of dark, drab winter evening. So I hope I'm going to bring a bit of joy into your lives this evening. So yeah, really excited to be here, and thanks again for the invite. So what have we got planned? So tonight I'm going to be just talking about, essentially what we've learned from 12 months in business. It's coming up to pretty much our 1 year anniversary as a new company. So I'm just passing on some of those lessons that we've learned this year, and neatly packaged into 12 lessons for 12 months. So one a month, even though they didn't, happen concurrently like that. So I'm just going to do a bit of an intro about who we are and a little bit about Kove Properties first. And then I will just go through those lessons and offer you some kind of practical kind of tips and questions throughout as well, and then I'll take questions at the end. So a little bit about us and a bit about Kove Properties. So I'm Jez, one of the directors of Kove Properties, and you'll probably know my business partner more than me. I'm the sort of the quieter one on social media. Dan is the far from the quieter one on social media. So yeah, it's me and Daniel Duffield who run Kove Properties. I'm actually based in London, and Dan is based in Newcastle. Dan has the property experience. He's a qualified architect, and my experience is more business and charity sector. So I've worked predominantly across those two sectors for sort of 13 years in sales and project management, business development, fundraising. I've worked with companies like Deutsche Bank, Deloitte, EY, PwC, so lots of kind of big corporate names, Vodafone as well, and managing contracts from 100,000 to the last one I managed was up to £6 million. So quite different experience to kind of the property world. I've also, my entrepreneurial spirit has been the thread throughout these. So I've also worked in a few hospitality businesses, running those businesses, and I actually led one of those to win Best Cafe in London a couple of years ago. In terms of my property experience now, so I've got 2 buy-to-let investments with Dan as part of the portfolio we've got at Kove. So that's just a little bit about me. Just a little bit about Kove. I think it's important before I talk about the lessons that you sort of understand a bit where we're coming from. So really, we started Kove really to be a bit different. We've got a kind of ambitious and bold vision, which you can see here, which is really to make an impact and be different in the industry and disrupt a little bit. I hate to use that word, it's become a bit of a cliche, isn't it? But really, we want to ultimately create a better UK housing sector. There's a lot of inequality in housing, as we know. Homelessness is on the rise. I worked for a homelessness charity for a couple of years. So there's huge amounts of inequality, which isn't right, as we know. And so we want to, improve that, but we also want to improve how the tenant is treated. We feel that tenants should be treated as customers. All the other industries that we can think of in the world treat the customer is king, and I don't see that enough in property, and that's something we really want to change. And then I think also alongside that, we want to make the property world more community focused, and also I think it needs to be more environmentally sustainable. I think we can no longer deny that, or no longer do things with business as usual heads on. Climate change is the biggest thing we've ever faced as a crisis as a humanity. So we need to bring that into everything that we do. So our focus at the moment is in kind of investment side. So we're helping people to grow their financial wealth and security through investing in property. We're offering them a hands-free solution to invest in property in the Northeast. We cover the whole end-to-end package. So we find the property for them, we do due diligence on it, we support it through conveyancing, we introduce to our power team, including brokers and solicitors, and then we've got a project management team and build team to then take the hassle away from that side of things. And then we've got a great letting agent that we work with who helps get the product and the house and the property on the market. And that really just enables our investors to, have that hands-free, remote investing experience, and enables them to, enjoy more time with their friends and family, because ultimately that's what it's all about. So what else do we do? Well, one thing that we started alongside Kove is that we run the only property networking event in central Newcastle. Dan and I couldn't believe that it wasn't, we were looking for an event to go to. We couldn't believe there wasn't one in Newcastle. So we just started our own, and obviously we've had to kind of pause that because of COVID. But what we've done is we've actually started our own webinar, free webinar, completely free. And we've done that since April. We've had some amazing speakers on this year. Lots of people that you would recognize, Tej from Tej Talks podcast, Laura Muse, Wendy Whitaker-Large, Rob from May Green Investment. So lots of great names and so much brilliant content. It's all free to rewatch on our Facebook page, so go and check some of that out. And we'll be continuing those next year, the last Thursday of the month, all completely free. And once we, when we can still network in person, we will still keep those going, because they've been a really big success. We've been getting like 400 views a month, and we just enjoy bringing them to our audience and to our community. So just a bit of a case study. Everyone loves a case study. So here's one we prepared earlier. It's a property in Chesterley Street. Finished the refurb about 3 weeks ago. It was purchased for 70,000. It wasn't in a bad state, to be honest. It's a 3-bed, end of terrace, huge garden, and the refurbs come in at about 18,000, and it should revalue at 116. So not much money, left in, about 8 grand. It's had the whole place. It's had a rewire, it's been replastered, new flooring, new kitchen, new bathroom, painting throughout. We've gone for a really high-end spec, and we're really proud of the results. We've also kind of landscaped the garden as well. So we're really happy with that, and the investor's really happy. The agent actually was so pleased with the result that they actually increased the level of rent to 650 a month. We were budgeting 600, so it's always a good sign. And that should cash flow at 245 a month, 36% return on the investment once it's refinanced. So yeah, that's the kind of deal that we're able to provide for our investors, and do refurbs of that kind of level as well. Another thing we've just launched, very sort of early days for this now, but using kind of Dan's experience and knowledge in architecture, and we just launched a CGI business. So this is something we've done recently for one of our clients. It's actually a chapel that's being converted in Wales, and these are used for marketing purposes and to help get planning permission as well. And it's very early days for this, but it's something that we're hoping to grow and kind of be part of our kind of package that we offer to investors and developers as well. So if anyone wants some CGIs doing, we've got an amazing team who does that work. It's not actually Dan who does them, he just oversees it. But yeah, we're really happy about how they're coming out. So what have we achieved this year? Why am I kind of like talking to you today really about our first 12 months in business? Well, I think firstly, we're on track to hit 100k turnover in those 12 months, which we're really pleased about. We went from 1 deal a month, which was the early days, and now we sold about 3 weeks ago, sold 4 deals in 1 week. So it's really ramped up, and we're really kind of happy and proud for what we've achieved. The biggest goal and milestone as well is that Dan and I have both left our day jobs. So we're full-time employed and full-time in property, which was a big goal for us to hit this year, and we've hit that. And we've now got a full-time team of 5 people as well. I'll be talking a little bit more about them during the lessons. We've also purchased 2 buy-to-lets in our portfolio, and that's something we're looking to expand on over the next few years. And as I've already said, we've got a webinar which has around 400 regular views, and we've got a kind of growing community around that webinar. We've got our own Facebook group and WhatsApp group, so we're building a really good community in the Northeast as well. Some followers who enjoy our content and enjoy what we're trying to bring through those webinars. So on to the lessons. So as I said, we've been in business 12 months, and I've got kind of 12 lessons for you. Kind of a whiz through really, because I could have given you 100 lessons, because as we know, there's always lots to learn in business. So I've succinctly wrapped them up into 12. And yeah, it's going to be a bit of a whistle-stop tour of our year in those lessons, and just some insights. They're kind of more general business insights. So if you're watching this and you're not actually in property, I think there's some useful tips, insights about business in general. Really, I think it applies to. I think I've written it in a way that applies to anyone, any kind of business. I'm a bit of a business geek. I'm actually a business graduate, and as I said, I don't actually come from a property background per se. It's more of a business background, so I think that's why I'm kind of quite passionate about sharing these kind of lessons, and putting it in a more general context of outside of the property industry. So on to lesson 1. So it'd be great if anyone can guess what Beyonce, Google, and Manchester United have in common. No, it's not David Beckham. It's not the Spice Girls. What I'm talking about here is brand. That is the common link between those 3 different entities. They're all huge brands, valuable global brands, recognized everywhere from China to the Philippines to Australia to Scotland and Iceland. And that recognition comes with so much leverage and power that these brands can really maximize. Like Beyonce, for example, she commands multiple domains. She kind of smashes it in fashion, in beauty, and of course music, bringing in huge revenues in the process, and that's because of her brand. And I think that this awareness of branding is something that we really considered from day one. We had a very much a planned approach and strategic approach to this. We consciously wanted to create a brand which felt like an established company from the outset. We chose our name, for example, to be short and contemporary sounding, to benchmark ourselves against the Ubers, the eBays, the Nikes of this world. And really, we did that on purpose to be quite different in the industry. I think there's I think it lacks, the property industry sometimes lacks young, modern brands which aren't named after their founders. We could have gone through the traditional route of naming ourselves Woodfield Investments, for example, and sounding very traditional, very financial, institutional sounding, but we've gone for something different, and that is on purpose. And there's a great quote from Jeff Bezos, which said that brand is all about what people say to you once you've left the room. And I think the fact that we've created a modern, authentic brand, Dan and I very put ourselves at the forefront of the brand. We're the faces of it, and it's very kind of personable. It's values driven, and we've gone for distinctive colors. We've gone for pink on purpose to be recognizable, and I think that has really been a big key to our success these last 12 months. And from what I hear, people are saying good stuff about us once we're out of the room. Well, I hope that's the case anyway. So on to lesson 2. It's a bit of a cliche, but property is a people business. And cliches are normally there for a reason. And I think that one thing that we've definitely reflected on is the power of relationships have definitely got us to where we are. The impact of those strong relationships across our business is really evident. For example, we've got a brilliant power team around us. One of the most important integral parts of our business is our builder. He's a vital stakeholder in delivering on our promises. Ultimately, as a sourcing and investment company, we've got a promise. We're essentially, I say to the team a lot, we're essentially like a manufacturing firm. We're saying this is a product we're going to deliver, but we've actually got to deliver it to spec, to the design, to the promise. And having that builder close and working with him and ensuring that the business is meeting his goals has been really vital. On the investor side, there's times when we sold deals really quickly, like last week, or just this week actually, losing track of weeks. We sold a deal within 5 minutes. I mean, it was a very good deal. No money left in deal. And, I don't think the investor even really looked at the deal that closely. He just thought there's no money in. And obviously, we've built up a level of trust with us that he can just make decisions like that. They can just make snap decisions, and they know that it's going to work out because they have that trust in us. And that is because we've worked really hard on those relationships. And actually, Dan and I have really reflected on this, that this is something we need to do more of. This is something we're looking to do more of next year. We're going to look into deepen the relationships that we have with investors, actually make it a smaller number of people that we are working with in order to develop these impactful, trusting relationships further, because they are the things that make a real difference to our business. I think another interesting point is when you're a new company, it's really important to actually leverage other people's credibility that are further ahead of you. And we're lucky to actually have a great network of people that have been in property for a while, and that's a lot of Dan's contacts have. And they've been really vital in providing us with support and guidance. But also, one key thing that some of them did at the beginning was providing references for when we needed sort of credibility and referrals for our investors. And this kind of gave us a bit of a leg up, which all businesses need to give us that kickstart to enable us to get going, because otherwise you're stuck in a catch-22 limbo. So for me, whatever industry you're in, and obviously it is particularly pertinent for property, but I think whatever industry you're in, I think really do not overlook or underestimate the power of relationships. And I really love this quote, that ultimately, whatever business you're in, it's people to people. So I listen to a lot of podcasts. You'll hear me say that a lot. And one thing that I've picked up from there is I listen to a lot of podcasts about the tech world and about scaling. And a really amazing analogy that I always reference is from Reid Hoffman, who's the founder of LinkedIn. He talks about starting a new business, being in a startup, as like jumping out of a plane while still assembling the parachute. Essentially what he's talking about there is he's saying that it's going to be hard, it's going to be scary, it's going to be uncertain, it's going to be fast, and it's going to be chaotic. And that is the mad world of startups, property, and and business in general. And that whole Silicon Valley, where the center of the tech industry is in America, or in the world really, is something that's very much influenced how we've grown and how we scaled this year. Dan and I sat down about, probably a year ago, and essentially ran a bit of a strategy session on the back of a napkin. Yeah, sounds like a cliche, but that was pretty much what happened. And we intentionally sat down and said, we want our investments business to be systemized and running without us by the end of this year. And we've nearly achieved that. We're well on the way to achieving that. Obviously, things always take longer than you think. So we're probably sort of 75% there. But this was very much an intentional move. It's important that we have a strategic role in the business, and we are therefore out of the business and working on the next phase of our growth, the next set of products, and the next set of goals. And something that we've done is, we've done this in a way which manages the risk. And we've done that in a way, for example, the way we've approached our staff. So obviously staff costs are huge. They can be huge depending on how you approach them, but we've actually looked to use staff from the Philippines and through, virtual assistants as much as possible, because we were kind of like, well, if they're doing office-based jobs, if they're doing data analysis, why do they need to necessarily be UK based? And this is an approach we're going to continue, because I have to say, we've got a great team of very engaged, very hardworking candidates at a fraction of the cost. And so we're going to continue that approach. But obviously, scaling a business and growing a business does not come without its challenges. As the analogy of jumping out of a plane talks about. And Reid Hoffman from LinkedIn is this amazing concept that I love, which talks about how you need to accept the fact that you're going to have issues and problems to solve across your business. You're going to have fires that need to be put out, but the key is to know which ones to put out when. So you actually need to accept that there will be fires burning, but you've got to let them burn until it's the right time. It's all about prioritization. And the reason I love that concept so much is because it's really tough running a business. It's really tough in property, juggling so many balls. And we always know that there's stuff that needs doing, there's stuff that needs improving, and there's things that are painful within our operations. And when we've had hard days, when tech is breaking, when new staff need support, when problems are occurring with planning, with refurbs, with builders, I can kind of breathe easy, knowing that kind of concept of it's normal. It's part of the kind of learning process. It's part of the growth process, and we need to just overcome those challenges one step at a time, and ensuring that we're prioritizing the right ones to tackle when. So I don't know how many of you know about the story of how Richard Branson started Virgin Airlines. This was in 1984. He had in typical Richard Branson style, he had no experience of aviation. He was a record company boss. He owned record stores, record shops, and ran a very successful record company. But he wanted to start an airline. So he went to Boeing and said, "Can I lease a few planes off you?" And he agreed that he would give them back at the end of year one if things didn't work out. And that, for me, is the ultimate story in managing risk. And I think one way that we've kind of approached, risk as well as the staffing costs is that we made a really key decision. I think it's one of the most key decisions we made this year, was that we took a business loan out early on in order to help boost our business, in order for us to grow. Because the stat is, it's quite crazy, the stat actually, 90% of new businesses die because of cash flow. 90%. And that having that business loan gave us this safety net, and so gave us this security and the peace of mind that we have a survival buffer and a runway in order to grow and scale, and to enable us to, for a few rocky months while we were still getting things going up, and to bring on staff as well in order to grow. So that's been a real key decision for us. I think another way that we've done this and managed our risk is also to diversify our income streams. We've got multiple income streams as a business. It's really early days at the moment for this, but we've now got 4 sources of income. And this is definitely something that we're going to continue to grow. And I think we've all probably concluded it that actually, if there's one lesson that we've all learned from this pandemic, is that within the business community, within the property world, that we really should never be complacent. We always need to plan for the unexpected and really look to manage the downside, as Richard Branson did with those planes. And one way of doing that is to have multiple arms to your business. And for example, all those restaurants out there who are now running veg box schemes, or doing takeaways, or doing meals at home DIY packs, I bet they carry on, because actually they're now more secure businesses for it, and it's a way of them managing their risks. So have a think. What does your next 12 to 24 months look like? What risks are out there that you need to consider, that that are going to stop you getting in the way of your goals, and how can you manage them? I've not got a Harley Davidson tattoo, so don't worry, I'm not going to show you any sort of bare skin tonight. But how many other companies do you know that have a tattoo? All their customers have tattoos. Harley Davidson are, an exception. It's like an institution. You have a Harley Davidson tattoo. Remember, this is just a motorcycle company at the end of the day. And one pivotal book that talks about this concept that I've read in the last 18 months is Simon Sinek's Start With Why. Definitely popular amongst the property community. I've seen it mentioned a lot of times. And what Sinek says is that as businesses, as business owners, as entrepreneurs, we need to be intentional and consider why your company exists from day one. And I'm not talking about, this is the key distinction I think gets a bit clouded sometimes. I'm not talking about personal whys. This is a company. Why does your company, your business exist? And having that defining purpose, having that why, provides you as a business with a North Star. It will guide your strategies, your staff, and help differentiate you from your customers. A great example that Sinek talks about a huge amount in the book is Apple. Apple have a purpose to think differently. And that guiding principle has really, shaped that business and that company. They were an innovative tech firm in the 80s. They still became an innovative tech firm in the 90s, but they went to a different level in the 2000s, didn't they? And now they're like, I think the most valuable company in the world. They're in a different league, even compared to like the Googles and Facebooks of this world. And, this is all inspiration for us. That's obviously why I'm talking about it. We've intentionally considered these aspects from day one. For example, something that we've done is we've actually created 5 core values which help shape our decisions, our products, and our behaviors. Dan and I did that after about a month of each other, of meeting each other, and we didn't have any staff. We were talking about cultural values. We didn't have any staff. We were probably 1 month into the business. I think Dan thought I was a bit mad when we were talking about that, and it's this kind of strategic, bold thinking which I think has really helped people gravitate towards us and inspire them to follow our journey. And this is exactly the concept that Siddiq talks about in his book, the Start With Why concept. You're looking to create super fans, cult-like status, essentially, like Harley Davidson, like Apple. So really looking forward to seeing everyone on this call with their Kove tattoos next year. So please put those on our Instagrams, tag us in. Kove tattoo will be the new fashion accessory of 2021, I'm sure. So over the last sort of 18 months, I've spent thousands of pounds on training, coaching, and mentoring. Don't worry, I'm not going to pitch a training course to you. And I was trying to think of an inspirational person who really embodies the kind of concept of self-development, self-improvement, and really pushing yourself. I couldn't think of a better person than Captain Tom. As we all know, he's fundraised £30 million for the NHS over this year. And, he's 100. You would have thought he would have been having a rest by now. He's already an esteemed war veteran, but he just wanted to keep pushing himself and doing more. And, the question I think he's asking himself is, how can I improve and be better? What more can I do? And, this is something that Dan and I look to do every day. Like, how can we be better? And a concept that I kind of love related to this is, looking to build relationships, bringing people in close to you that are like 5 to 10 steps ahead of you, like kind of as mentors, like peer mentors, essentially. And Tim Ferriss, who's podcaster and author, is essentially my mentor. I've never met the guy, but I definitely see him as a mentor. He's had such a massive impact on my life. And that's not hyperbole, that's genuine. He has a concept which is called scratching your own itch. He talks about it in his a lot in his podcasts, and basically this is about, if he's got an area that he's looking to develop or wants to know more about, he's looking at it from a selfish point of view. He's going, right, well, what do I want to improve on in my life? So he will then seek out experts in that field and then interview them. And we've copied that concept really for our webinars. We're always learning, and there's so much learning that we're still relatively new to property and to the game, and we're constantly looking to learn. Every day is definitely a school day. And we've really copied this through our getting people on our webinar who we want to learn from, we want to develop and improve, but it also gives valuable content to our audience. And it's such a powerful concept that gives a win-win to everyone. So yeah, how can you be better tomorrow? How can you be better the next day? How can you get inspired by Captain Tom and be more, and push yourself and be more like him? So I don't know how many of you know, and apologies to anyone who's married in the room. It's not meant to be an insult. Some staggering stats for you about marriage and how many marriages end in divorce. 50% of first marriages end in divorce, 67% of second marriages end in divorce, and 73% of third marriages end in divorce. Those numbers go up and actually get worse as the marriages go on. So obviously the people that are married the third time aren't really learning. Can you guess what that stat is for business partnerships? Well, it's nearly as bad as the third marriages. It's 70% of business partnerships ultimately fail. And this is something that Dan and I definitely recognized early on, and the thought that essentially the success of our business really relates to how strong and effective our relationship is. And there's that cheesy analogy about relationships being like a garden. They're a lot of work and they need constant attention and tending to. And I think a business relationship and partnership is no different to that. So we've recognized all of that, and we've put some really key steps in to prioritize it in order to keep developing and nurturing our partnership and relationship. So one way we've done that, for example, is during the summer, we had a couple of partner coaching sessions with my coach. And from that has come something really valuable, actually, which is we have a monthly check-in. It's a recurring invite in the diary, so it's not deprioritized. And this is a really informal conversation just between Dan and I, with no set agenda. And it's normally like over breakfast time, so it's kind of like, relaxed. And it's just to explore how we're feeling. It's having that regular space really helps to ensure that we are tending to that relationship. We're strengthening it, we're tweaking it. It's a space to give each other feedback, and that will help us improve ourselves, our relationship, and ultimately our business. So it's such a good technique, and maybe it's something more business partnerships and certainly marriages should do, because it would hopefully help the 70% failure rate come down a bit. So I've been reading the Lean Startup book recently. It's kind of quite a famous book now, especially in the tech world. And one of the core principles really resonated with me. He was talking about when you start a business, you don't actually know what's going to work. And he says that startups exist to be able to find out how to build a sustainable company. And again, similar to what I was saying earlier about the fires burning, it's such a reassuring theory to talk about when you've had a stressful and long day, that's okay. It's kind of, you're kind of learning as you're doing, and you're trying to find out what works and what doesn't. And we really take that concept on board, and that's a central concept to everything we do. Is kind of like a test. Any new business process, any new project is an experiment that we run to gain insights to help then improve our business and iterate. We've done that from trialing Facebook ads for lead generation of investors and properties to buy direct to vendor, new services that we might be testing and sending out to our mailing list to see what traction we get back from our investors. And this, this kind of concept, like you could term it like build, measure, learn. And, it's something that we will continue to do as we grow as a business. And it's something that we're doing with our CGI business, which I introduced earlier. We're using this theory that Rees talks about in his Lean Startup book, which is a minimal viable product. We've created a website for our CGIs. We have we've created a portfolio. We're running Facebook advertising, targeting developers across the country. We only really have the bare bones of business. We've got a freelancer who's amazing doing the CGIs in Brazil. We've actually made it all seem like smoke and mirrors kind of thing, seem like an established business. And, running those adverts and doing it this way, we're kind of like testing our assumptions. We're like testing, like, is there actually a demand for this business at this price point, to this target audience? And we're doing that before actually committing any kind of staff time to it, any kind of big financial resources to it. And it's a great concept. So I think, think about what can you experiment with in your business over the next 6 months? What kind of tests can you run? What theories do you need proof of concept to, and that you can use that minimal viable product approach to test out? So as I mentioned earlier, I worked in hospitality for 4 years. I managed 2 businesses for 2 companies, and I also ran my own catering business and pop-up cafe as well. And it was here that I really kind of honed my passion for, I'd say, creating customer-led businesses, because in hospitality, the customer experience is everything. When I was running those cafes, I drew into my team that essentially, as soon as the customer walks through the door, that's when the customer experience starts. Actually, it starts when they're outside. It starts when they're looking at the outside of the building, for example. But every kind of second that they're in the building is part of their experience. And one massive influence on me at the time is Danny Mayer. Danny Mayer is the founder of Shake Shack, which is now in the UK, but he also runs lots of other sort of high-end restaurants across America. And he talks about how in his restaurants, the approach that they have when they make a mistake is that the response to that by the staff should be so kind of significant, so memorable, that it completely outweighs and outdoes the error and the mistake, that the customer actually forgets about it. And what comes to their mind is the response to it, whatever that might be, whether that's like a free like champagne dinner, or the whole bill wiped off, or whatever it is, that they will then actually talk to all their friends and family about it, and about the amazing level of service. And taking all this kind of experience from hospitality, for me, is helped us really put the customer at the forefront of everything that we do at Kove. And an example of where I've taken that sort of Danny Mayer concept about mistakes is, we had an incident with one of our refurbs. We completely got screwed over by a builder. It's quite a painful incident in our year. He went completely AWOL, left a number of jobs, including the most significantly this one, and essentially walked off halfway through, and he actually stole from the client because he actually owed them money. And so our response to this, even though it wasn't, he screwed us over, was we refunded our sourcing fee, we refunded our project management fee, and then there was additional cost to that refurb because it all needed to be some of the work needs to be done again because it was so bad. So we ended up splitting that additional cost 50-50 with the client, because we only felt it was right and fair. And this gesture went a real long way in demonstrating our integrity, helping to regain that trust with that client. And we ended that refurb on good terms and hoping to work together again in the future. And this quote from Jeff Bezos is amazing. Amazon are very much a kind of customer led business, and this quote around treating your customers as invited guests to your party is what we're all about at Kove. And we are of the opinion that business is all about the long term and not the short term. And we want to treat every customer like they've been invited to our dinner party. So I'll let you ponder what you think Zoom, the corner shop, and Netflix have in common. But I'm going to talk about luck. What do you think luck means? What is luck in business terms? Well, I'm just kind of getting into Stoic philosophy, and Stoic philosopher Seneca talks about how luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. And I completely agree with that statement. I think there's a lot to be said for that we can make our own luck. We can generate our own opportunities by positioning ourselves in the right place at the right time. But I think the challenge there is to actually know when to seize the opportunity. Richard Branson's approach to this is to essentially just go, yes, and then work out the details later. And one such moment in our year, in terms of seizing that opportunity, came because of the pandemic. Dan and I were both put on furlough relatively at the same time from our day jobs. And this lasted a few months, particularly for Dan. And this massively helped accelerate our business to those achievements that I mentioned earlier. And, was this lucky? Well, we knew that we recognized this was an amazing and unique opportunity, and one that we needed to maximize. And, we've maximized this in a way of essentially just grafting for the whole year. I think we've had one day off, like apart from the occasional full weekend, a day off during the week. I think we've had one between us. And, that graft was because we saw how important this opportunity was. And, it's been so satisfying that we've now, achieved our big goal of leaving our jobs. And we feel lucky to, I know this has been a really difficult year for lots of people, and we've capitalized on the luck that I suppose the furlough scheme brought us. And, like Zoom, like Netflix, like the corner shop, like Amazon, we've actually benefited from the pandemic and the conditions that it's actually brought us, that furlough scheme. So I think just ask yourself, what opportunities out there can you see that you can capitalize on? What potential problems, because you could see the pandemic as a problem, for example, could you actually flip and reframe it as a potential, positive opportunity to actually capitalize on? So a big philosophy that Dan and I share is essentially continuous improvement and striving for improvement and to find better ways of doing things every day. And this kind of concept, drives innovation. It's certainly what led Apple, for example, to launch the iPhone and the iPod. And both those products at the time, back in the 2000s, completely changed the course of music and mobile phone industries forever. And I've read a book about Amazon recently, which is why I'm quoting them so much. And, you know, the benchmarking against your competitors is something that, you know, is a really good thing to do. And that's what Jeff Bezos did. He looked at the iPod and the iPhone and iTunes, and that's what inspired them to develop the Kindle. The Kindle has very much changed the course of you know, book buying and the book world, and that's all from being inspired by having essentially a digital product rather than a tangible product. And this kind of benchmarking and constantly striving to improve is something you can see when we are looking to constantly test and iterate within our business. And another example of this is Dan recently, inspired by the kind of competition, looking at what our competition's doing, completely tore up the way that we do our lead generation for finding our properties and completely started again from scratch. And I have to say, kudos to him, that's completely changed the way our business works. And it has meant that we've exceeded our sales targets for the last 4 months. And I think, you know, we've got this mindset of, you know, each day is a new day, and the business and the product is never finished. And that is actually a quote from Jeff Bezos. And, you know, that's certainly something that can be a little bit sort of stressful, as a, you know, that we're never satisfied, and you know, we're always looking for more. But it's a good way of, you know, keeping motivated and ensuring that we're not actually complacent. And you know, this kind of concept is not just within our business, but like personally as well. As I was talking about, like bringing the inspiration of Captain Tom, of constantly improving and growing as people. So the final lesson, I think probably one of the most important. So, you know, as I talked about earlier, running a business isn't easy. You know, being an entrepreneur, being in property isn't easy. Whatever industry we're in, it's a complete emotional roller coaster. It's highs and lows on a daily basis. You know, it's chaotic, it's hard, it's grueling. It's like jumping out of a plane without a parachute. And, you know, a real huge passion of mine is around well-being and needing to create a framework and conditions to ensure that we are looking after ourselves as entrepreneurs, as leaders, in order to build our resilience. And a concept I love around this, and an analogy I love from Ariana Huffington, who's the founder of the Huffington Post. She now runs a well-being company, supporting consulting with sort of large corporates. She talks about this concept of putting your oxygen mask on first. And another sort of concept that I love, and one of my favorite personal development books, is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. And he's got a final habit, which is called sharpening the saw. And there's 4 ways here which to sharpen the saw, and these can be viewed as ways of building your resilience. You know, you've got the exercise, the body, which is around, you know, eating well and sleeping. You've got the mind, which is, you know, the reading, the educating, the learning. You've got the heart, the importance of the relationships and having social time, but it's also, you know, volunteering and giving back. And, you know, and laughing as well. It's that, you know, laughing is seen to have such benefits to us. And then you've got the soul, the spiritual side, which is the, you know, meditating and journaling. And you know, personally, I try and build all of these into my daily routines. You know, I try and block out specific parts of my calendar to do each of these to ensure that they don't get, you know, deprioritized. I've got reoccurring time in, for example, for a run, I do capoeira, Brazilian martial art as well. So, you know, it's really difficult as sort of entrepreneurs and you know, in property to carve out this time, because, you know, there's a feeling that there isn't enough time. There's always so much to do. But being busy is actually a choice. And, you know, as all entrepreneurs, we are actually in control of our time. You just got to believe it. You just got to take control of it. And, you know, these habits, by building them into your routines, will actually increase your performance, which is what the whole concept of putting your oxygen mask is on first. You've got to look after yourself first. And I think that we need to get over the illusion that actually the length of time that we work correlates with output and correlates with the quality of output. It doesn't. You know, and recent examples from Scandinavian business of moving to 4-day weeks, they've seen productivity go up. And that just really demonstrates that actually less is more when it comes to work. So, as I said, my final kind of point, and as I said, probably the most important point, is actually carve out some time, sharpen the saw, you know, because it's going to help improve your mindset. It's going to help improve your business. It's going to help build your resilience and ultimately make you a more effective leader and entrepreneur for whatever 2021 throws at you. So that's my 12 lessons from 12 months in business. I've talked about the importance of brand. I've talked about we can never underestimate the power of relationships within our businesses. And as part of growing, as part of being a new business, there'll be problems that occur that we just gotta let burn until it's the right time. It's about prioritization. Risk management and managing the downside is so important in business. Think about and be really intentional about what your business why is. Think about the strategy and where you're going and work backwards. How can you be more like Captain Tom? How can you be better than yesterday? What can you do to nurture your business relationships, whether that's with your business partner, whether that's with your staff, or whether that's even with external stakeholders? What can you do to ensure that they aren't being deprioritized because they're fundamental to the success of your business? What experiments can you run to test some concepts? How can you ensure that the customer experience is prioritized in your business? What opportunities can you seize? What problems might there be that you can actually reframe as opportunities? Always look to see what improvements you can make in your business day to day. As that quote said, there's always something to improve. The product is never finished. And make sure you do carve out some time for yourself. Put your oxygen mask on first, because it will ultimately help you as a person, as a leader, and help your business. So thanks for listening. Thanks for being here. Paul, have we got time for questions?
Yes, mate, of course we have.
Great. Has anyone got any questions? Feel free to jump on and introduce yourself, or there's some in the chat box as well. Oh no, that's just some people updating about their battery's going to die. Any questions, anyone? What success? Grant says, what success have we had with Facebook? I think we've had, in terms of Facebook advertising. Oh, he says, Grant says, what success have we had with Facebook advertising for direct to vendor? It's been mixed. I have to say, we've had a lot of leads, but the kind of quality of those leads was not always great. So, there was a lot of work to essentially filter through those leads, and we had someone supporting us for a while, calling all those leads, and sometimes they were just a complete waste of time. So it's been kind of mixed. I think it's definitely one for us to improve on next year and refine, because we've definitely not cracked it. So I'd be really interested to hear other people's thoughts and case studies on Facebook advertising, because we've certainly not got it right. We either got too little but the quality was high, or we got so many but the quality was very low.
Thanks, Jez. I felt as though I was doing the same with that, Jez. I was getting a lot of leads, but the conversion rate was just really poor.
Yeah, exactly. Did you have any success? Did you get anywhere near a deal?
Maybe 2 deals in like a 6-month period and a couple of grand spend.
That's not bad though, is it? To be honest, 2 deals, that's pretty. I mean, because if you compare that to how many deals that we look at from agents, what's the conversion rate there? So that does actually sound all right, actually. Gary and Kirsty. Hi, Gary and Kirsty. So it says, we've completely changed our lead generation approach. What is our new approach? So this approach is all to do with how do we maximize essentially speed. We're in a really difficult market at the moment, as we know. Prices and expectations of sellers are through the roof, and competition for good property leads is really high. So everything that we do now is for speed. So we are essentially building relationships with agents is an ongoing process. So that is fundamental. And ensuring that we're continuing to get a pipeline of deals that are sent to us through off market, for example, or just about to come onto the market through agents. So that's one thing we've really prioritized. That the other thing we've prioritized is every single day going to a Rightmove like 9 a.m. and actually looking about what new properties have come online, and then analyzing them as fast as possible to see if they work for our criteria, and being the first to book in a viewing. So that's what I'm saying, is about speed. So Dan's got that down to a fine art now, that often he's ringing an agent and they're saying, well, you're the first in, and that's where we want to be. So if we're the first in, we can put the first offer in, and then we've potentially secured it before anyone else has had a chance to view it. So it's essentially, it's all about speed. So that's completely changed our business so far, as well as building those relationships and prioritizing those relationships. Any other questions, guys? I hope that means that people were listening, if I've only had a couple of questions.
I have a question, please.
Oh, hi, Kaz.
Hi there. Hi, Jeremy. That was really interesting. It was absolutely
thank you.
fascinating. Thanks very much for that. I don't know if I missed this right at the beginning, because I'm afraid I was sort of faffing around finishing cooking. So I missed the very beginning.
That's okay.
I'm just trying to work out your model for investors. Is the sourcing that you do traditional sourcing, where the investor comes in when you've found the property, and then you do that, you have the sourcing fee and then you have the development fee or renovation fee? Or are you saying that you sell on at the end when all the work's been done?
No, it's more like the first one. So it's a sort of yeah, we kind of source to not necessarily source to order, but it's, you know, we work with investors who have certain requirements, and then we're looking to find properties which meets those requirements and securing it for them at conveyancing, and then working with that investor until essentially the property gets let, and then that's when the managing agent takes over that relationship.
Okay.
But you know, sometimes we do get flips with just that no money left in deal that I mentioned that went in 5 minutes. That's going to be a flip. So yeah, sometimes, you know, investors do flip them, but on the whole, they're holding them.
Right. Okay. Thanks.
No worries. Anyone else? I've just had confirmation that people are listening, so that's good. Thank you for that.
Yes, I've got another question actually.
Go for it.
With your, oh, sorry, that's my dog. If there's
Oh, hello.
because there's a firework or something. We've still got.
He's got a question as well, yeah.
With your background in the charities sector, because I've just had a wee peek at your LinkedIn and your work with crisis, etc. Are you thinking of moving into that sector, you know, supported living in that sector, with your developments?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. Yeah, and you've kind of yeah, found us out in some ways. Yes, that is you know, as I covered it at the beginning a little bit, but you know, our vision is to, you know, help actually make the housing sector better. And you know, one way we are ultimately looking to do that is to yeah, start thinking about the supported living and social housing sector. You know, we will eventually be building our own development, so it's whether there's some opportunities there. You know, I'm massively passionate about homelessness, so it's kind of like, what can we do in that space? You know, we're really just looking to make a difference on people's lives through property, and I think, you know, we all have an opportunity to do that. I heard Tom from Fat Properties a few months ago talking about the responsibility, the level of responsibility that we all have as landlords and as property sort of developers, of the level of responsibility that we have of providing, you know, a secure and safe home for people. And you know, that all ties together with the kind of homelessness piece and the supported living. And yeah, it's definitely more, you know, we're definitely looking to do more of that over the next few years. Not completely sure what all of that looks like, but yeah, it's definitely a space that we're really keen to move into. And we're really excited to be launching a kind of homelessness kind of product and campaign early next year as well. So yeah, kind of watch this space for that. Thanks, Kaz. So a question here, which is, what do you charge in terms of commission if properties are flipped? If a property gives 30k profits sold, what do you charge? So that's mainly, it's not, we don't really charge a percentage. So 30k profit is kind of it's a good profit for flips. You know, 20 to 30k is kind of, you know, the amount that people are looking at. So for those kind of higher end deals and the ones where the returns are bigger, we charge 5k sourcing fee plus our project management fee. And another question from Roger, which is, what percentage of your deals are off-market direct to vendor? Not as many as we like. I would say sort of 5% at the moment. As I said earlier, answering Grant's question, you know, direct to vendor is definitely an area that we're looking to improve on next year. We've not cracked that yet, and we haven't really tried a lot of other direct to vendor marketing strategies. We sent letters out. We sent about 500 letters to oldest listed. Got a few replies back for that, but didn't get any deals from there. I think we got about 3 replies back from about 500 letters. So yeah, the direct to vendor world is is definitely something we need to improve on and try more of. Do some more testing, essentially. Back to that, you know, we've tested letters, we've tested Facebook ads. There's obviously lots more that we can do. So we need to get our heads together to think about what that can be. But yeah, it's definitely an area for improvement, and it's not very many at the moment. Any more? If not, what I will say is do stay in touch. Here's all of our details. You've got my mobile, my email. I'm on Jez Wood on Facebook, Instagram. But in terms of following Kove as well, you know, we've got a Facebook group, and you know, you can be multiple. You could be a Blue Oak member and a Kove Property Meet member as well. And we've also got a WhatsApp group, which is full of, if anyone's Northeast based, I don't have to be Northeast based, but a lot of our people in that group are Northeast based. Paul's in there. It's some good crack, but also, you know, there's lots of knowledgeable people in the property world. But also, if people are looking for like local recommendations, you know, for like plumbers and builders and structural engineers, etc. There's a lot of people that have, you know, used those services that can recommend. So it's a great community. So yeah, please stay in touch through any number of those methods. And yeah, thanks so much for everyone's questions and for listening, and I hope you found it useful. Paul, over to you, I think.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jez. I remember coming to your first networking event, and
yeah, you did. Yeah,
you
look
lads,
forward to the next one.
I know you lads have come a long way since then, so it's great to see you. Thank you very much for coming on, and everyone else, enjoy the rest of the evening.
Great, thanks so much, everyone.
Thanks, Jez, mate.
Cheers.
Rendezvous.